they breathe. Yeah. Oh, this one's a good one. This account. It's really cool. This is my favourite one at the moment. She's a comedian.
It's being
I'll show
filmed.
you
Something
some of the
happened.
others.
I have the.
You get it.
Yeah.
Oh, see if I can find the rest of it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Damien.
Yeah. This one. This is my other favourite.
Alright, so
Hygiene is the key, no matter what the obstacles. Listen. Oh, but anyway. Yeah, that's the one there. No, that one I don't know. But the other, with most of them I do.
Do you reckon that's purple?
But yeah, just.
That's what I was wondering.
I did an email with her glasses.
No, she's lost her other one.
many folks
Oh,
are
her backup.
in the room? Kathy?
I got an email about that.
Enough.
60 to go.
What about 30?
I've got lots.
Little. Just got a phone call that they just got a 38-degree temperature.
They do.
Yeah, she's going 2 weeks straight at the moment.
So I currently work for Texthelp. Before that I worked for 246. I'm now the Australian branch, but they're based in Belfast.
She needs more.
I'm based in Lismore.
Whatever it is, but I don't have 5 days off myself.
I'll talk about my
Just got to wait till holidays.
Asia Pacific. So my turf runs from Mongolia to
Long
Fiji.
weekend, 3 days.
Yeah, that's all in it. Yeah, I haven't been there, but that's all. Yeah. I actually spent 2 years in living in the Seychelles. I had to go back.
Yeah, she's going to move.
Your accent? Yeah.
You know what? I've just got a video.
No, and Seychelles is close by this part of Africa. In terms of how it feels. Oh no, the country. English is trilingual, English, French, and I played rugby for the younger days for the national team and that team. I was mostly social.
I'm not stupid. I'm not playing that game.
We're the guys that actually kind of knew the rules. It was an English initially an English colony, then it became a French colony.
Not very harsh,
And
right?
then they got independence.
She did Kiwi Jim, so probably teach that to her.
Yeah, fine.
But that was more, so I had to do other stuff.
Are they on G-Drive?
So you obviously support the Waratahs.
Oh, okay.
Rugby, Waratahs?
Yeah,
I'll flick them to
Sort
you,
of.
but
yeah. I am a Waratah, but they're not.
Alright,
They're
I'm
not.
just
They're
trying
not
to check
the
my
first
email.
thing to see, because they always don't do so well. But
It's cool. In the with the chains.
yeah.
Over the weekends they change.
Well, that's why I chose that session as a
But if they can keep that format, we can
Some I think your accent now.
We're all Texthelp.
Charlotte, like, she's actually my
see
actress.
you.
Yeah, that was incidental. I came here and found her in the
It's a
position.
little enclave.
Yeah, I can do that.
I got stickers.
You got stickers.
So
yeah, I'm planning to have a long weekend.
So this is.
yeah, great. Sorry, we're so
We're chatting about
You going swimming? She's racing for Australia at the Olympics.
I think need to swing with
Not racing for Australia.
yeah, also South Africa.
yeah, so
Yeah, she was
Google, so
my
you're right,
teacher
I had
when I was
to
still a
the
daily
bank
principal
me
at college.
different person.
She was special teacher now. She's manager at over there.
yeah. Department of Ed.
Yeah, Lindsay probably.
Yeah.
But yes, that's good.
Okay, well, I'm telling you.
I went to the school site over at
Then I
part
got
of
a
the
name,
education,
then I got
she said,
everything.
"I missed out. You can come and tell me what happened." I said, it doesn't work that way. You should have gone yourself.
That's right.
Yeah.
I did lots of workshops for the minister. We had nothing.
Right, so, Greg,
I'll show you.
So wait,
This is
no,
great.
we're going to
Yeah,
wait
yeah,
another
right.
one.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. So he's
Yeah.
my
You've got like a computer.
Oh, 3 times I missed.
Oh, no.
Doesn't require to be.
Well, they start
No,
to be
yes,
very
independent
painful.
worker.
Thank you for that.
No, I don't think you can do it
As
that
long as he wants to be independent,
Yeah,
that's all.
As long as you do what you
You might have to come back here and sit next to me again.
Yes.
Greg, are you ready?
Don't say that because she wants to.
I stole that joke. This is not, isn't it? All right. I'm handing over to Jane, who will introduce our guest speaker. Thank you.
Hi, guys. I've known Greg on and off, well, over the years. I first met you at a Spectronics conference, I think in 2009, in the mid 2000s anyway. And he's amazing. He's an amazing presenter. He got me enthusiastic about assistive software, and I started using it in my school with my students and found it made a huge difference for them. And I'm not going to tell you about what Greg's doing right now because his role's changed. He used to work for Spectronics as an educational consultant for them, I think I'm right. So I'm going to hand over to Greg and he will tell you a bit more about himself and then talk to us about some of these wonderful technologies that can help all our students.
Thank you. And what I'll just do is take my little thing here to copy. I've got to speak to this camera and to this camera and to you. That's easy.
That's easy.
Let's get some little pointer. So my name's Greg. Battery's out. I live in Lismore, Byron Bay.
That's right.
My lo-
Lucky you.
So, you're from Lismore?
I went to school in Lismore.
Which school did you go to?
Trinity
So
Catholic College.
my kids went to Trinity too, and St John's Woodlawn. There we go. And they're okay.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
What happened?
Good.
Sorry, I went teach.
And also I've been a teacher since 1980, so a little bit of time. And what's happened over the years of my teaching career is my voice gets tired, particularly when I've been talking for lots and lots and lots. I've taught my whole teaching career has been teaching kids with diverse learning needs. And one of the things that I do as a teacher is I use my voice as my prime instructional tool. And I don't use it very well. Many teachers don't use their voice very well. One of the things I often don't do is I don't project, and lots of kids often can't hear me. So just when I present and do workshops now, I carry this little device with me. It's called an Echo. I'm not just telling you this get setting up. It's a portable amplification system that's rechargeable. And what happens is I turn it on, put in my little headset. It's really an excuse to make me look like Madonna, but not Madonna the singer.
That's a bit of a one.
Yeah. So what happens is I just do this, and that means that I can just amplify my voice a little bit, and I don't have to speak so loudly. It also means that when I'm in the playground, I don't have to shout across the playground. All my kids can hear me. It's a really lovely little tool, and it's quite portable. And it doesn't require me bringing in a whole amplification system in my classroom. I can just set this up, and my voice is a bit more amplified. So I'm going to use this if that's okay. And it does make me look like a bit of a rock star too, which is kind of cool. So that's me, and this is my mate Barb. I'm a teacher, and Barb's an occupational therapist. Just to set the scene, we've worked for various places. We're not related. We're partners in crime in terms of working with kids with diverse learning needs. But we used to work for a company called Spectronics, and we were consultants. But now we work for this company called Texthelp, and they're an international company that provides literacy support tools in the technology area. And I'm going to use those tools today to show you a whole bunch of stuff. So one way I'm going to show you those tools, but it's more than that. I actually want to talk to you about teaching and learning and supporting kids who struggle in school. Just to let you know, that's my turf there, that little, where it's the purple and green spot. But I am actually going there in a month. Oops, realised that. That's with the Seychelles. I taught for 2 years in the Seychelles English as a second language to remedial students, as they call it then. So I'm going back to spend a bit of time, reunion back in the Seychelles. So that's my job. Now, one of the things that I do is I travel around lots of places. So I actually get to see a lot of things and experience, and I don't have one original thought. I'm not the owner of any new idea. All I am is a complete sponge of other people's good practice and what we know from what the research tells us and so on. So I just take it all in. I visit lots of schools. I work across international schools all through Southeast Asia, Australia, New Zealand, all sorts of schools, working in Castigate across all of Australia. And in the process, I meet lots of interesting people. And this guy's name's Kevin Honeycutt. And Kevin is I guess he's an educational thinker, a really amazing guy. And I went to visit him in Kansas. Now, he lives in Kansas. He's in the US. He lives in a little place called Hutchinson, which is like, if you looked at America, Hutchinson is like the belly button of America. It's like the lint collector. You kind of get the idea what it's like there. I love it. But it actually houses the Cosmosphere, which houses the Apollo 13 exhibition. And so here we are, Kevin and I, doing a selfie, as you do, in front of the exhibition. Apollo 13, that was the one that Tom Hanks flew on. Remember that one? I found out when I went there that that was only a movie and he didn't actually fly on it. Sorry, little dad joke, just throw them in just to keep you awake. But as I was there hanging out with Kevin, I walked out and there was this jar of bangles, and I bought one of these bangles, and the bangles say, failure is not an option. And I looked at that bangle and I realized that's what I do. That's my mantra. Because in my work as an educator in schools, working with kids who struggle, and my thing that I have a really passion around is literacy. And the fact is that many of our students, they walk through the school door and the only option they ever have is failure, because they're totally defined by their ability to read and write. And if you can't read and write in the traditional sense, that's your whole interaction in school is actually predicated on that issue. And you talk to lots of kids, particularly older kids, and they would tell you that they're dumb because they can't read and write. They'll use those words, I'm dumb, I'm stupid, I can't read and write. And many students struggle with that issue, and we struggle with how we do it. So what I want to do with you today is actually talk about this issue, about reading and writing, particularly for those kids who just struggle. And I do, in my work, I spend a lot of time in the territory, and I spend time in community. So I've spent quite a bit of time in a couple of communities, Yarralin, which is a community southwest of Katherine, and I've also been to Group. And that issue of literacy is really relevant in community, the issue of reading and writing, because often those kids, English is not their first language, not even necessarily their second language. And often instruction is predominantly in that language, and so it becomes an issue for them. So that's my mantra. In Australia, there are lots of struggling learners. If I looked at the stats about what we know, 30% of students across Australia struggle with reading and writing in our schools. That's ABS stats. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give you this slide presentation and a folder full of resources and also links to all the research I talk about. I've got a Google Doc that's got everything on it. So you've got the whole shooting match. So you can just put your pens down and just relax and take it in. But that's a large number of kids that when they walk through the school door, they're actually struggling with the way that their teaching and learning is actually done in that school, because we do so much of what we do is predicated on the fact that you need to be able to reprint, often in a hard copy, and then to tell me what you know, I give you one of those and one of those, and that's the way you actually. And so we look at that, and I think NAPLAN. So I just spent some time talking with Department of Ed here about NAPLAN, and as you know, it's going on and all those issues. I don't want to get into what NAPLAN's all about, but when you look at some stats, if I just looked at some raw stats, in 2015, 10% of the average number was 10% of Year 3 students across Australia were scored at or below the minimum standard required to read in Year 3. In Year 9, it bumps up to 23%. Why does that happen? What happens between Year 3 and Year 9 that all of a sudden there's this huge increase in kids struggling with the reading? Writing, 7% in Year 3, 40% in Year 9. Okay. And there's something what happens in Years 1 and Kinder and Year 2, it's this beautiful, soft, lovely, remedial world where we're all learning to read, and Everyone's a remedial student. You get to about year 3 and all of a sudden you're still learning to read, but all of a sudden you've got to get on with it because you've got to read stuff to learn. And then by the time you get to high school, it's all reading. I'm here to teach year 9 science. I don't teach reading. Come along. I often clap my hands when I talk. I think it's going to work it out. But anyway. And so that issue, so things like when I go to year 9 science, am I going there to learn science or am I going there to learn to read at a year 9 science level? And that's what happens to lots of kids. So the question is, that bangle that said failure is not an option, for lots of our students, failure is the only option. And when do we actually kind of say, well, we need to give them some accommodations and adjustments because they're not actually, it's not working. How do we intervene and what do we do with those students that we have? A large number of students. And what happens, we know that actually the achievement gap is really real, and the longer we leave it, the bigger that achievement gap happens. And particularly when this happens, you could almost put a line here and say that's year 7, when they plateau out, because this is all content delivery. And at some stage along this process, we're doing remediation, but at some stage it doesn't work or they're not accessing it. And we can't just say, well, you've got a problem. You've got to get on and learn to read. I can't wait. Can you go off with somebody and do your stuff? And so we do remediation, we do withdrawal. Every time we do that, you're missing out on what your other peers are doing and they're achieving at that. So the achievement gap is a real issue. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about some technology tools that actually help us to actually address that, to make some things that have been impossible for kids possible. The important thing about this, though, is there's going to be lots of shiny objects. And you're going to, ooh, got to get those. We have to really be careful about SOS, shiny object syndrome, that we actually just don't take the technology on. ICT actually stands for it can't teach. You can't put any student in front of any device and they're going to learn to read, they're going to learn to write, and they're going to be engaged. It doesn't work that way. They did a meta-analysis of some research around interactive whiteboards, which is very little research about the use of interactive whiteboards. Do you know what the major factor that actually makes a difference in the outcomes for kids with interactive whiteboards is? The teacher. You put the same interactive whiteboard in 2 classrooms, the same kids, the same curriculum. The difference is the teacher in the room who's actually teaching those kids. This is exactly the same. We need to think about that issue. And so I come back, here we are, doing another selfie. I've actually figured out if you put your hands behind your arms like that, it makes it look like a bigger muscle, so that's kind of good. Here we are at the back here, and it made me think about that thing. It made me think about we often repair the environments, we don't prepare our educational environments. We kind of, can I pick on you?
Yeah, that's
we kind of go,
yeah.
You're very special.
I know.
Yeah, you are very special. And, oh, I see you have a few problems. We'll get some funding and we'll employ someone to look after you, a very special person, and we'll Velcro them to you. So whenever you get, so they're going to be your buddy, and whenever they're going to help you out, they're going to read and write. And by the way, we've got a computer for you, and it's a very special computer. It's down the corridor, around the left, and in a little special room you're going to go to. And so we tend to, oh, you're in a wheelchair. Oh my goodness. So we'll build a ramp out the side. And whenever we repair, it actually doesn't fit. Like the ramp outside the building didn't quite fit and makes the building look a bit funny. And I'm withdrawing you from the group, and I want you to stay in the group. I actually don't want to repair. I want to say, when you walk into my classroom, I might not know the answer, but I see possibilities. And there are possibilities for you that I want to explore, and I want those possibilities to be for all my students. So what I want you to do is think about kind of universal design for learning, which is the idea that I build my learning environment so it's available for everybody. And it looks cool and it feels good. Like these stairs, the group of steps was built with a ramp in advance, and they put the ramp, and it looks cool. It looks nice. And also that ramp not only is for someone in a chair, it's also for a dad pushing his pram. It's also for someone on a walking stick. It's also for someone using a skateboard. That ramp is for more than we thought it was going to be for in the first place. And it respects the dignity of the people that we want to include. So that's what we need to think about. Now, I'm going to talk about some educational technology tools, and you're going to go, woo. Some of you are like early adopters, you've kind of got the latest gadget. Some of you kind of go, well, I hope he doesn't ask me a question because I don't really like technology, and it's not something that I'm kind of comfortable with. And there is, and that's the problem, there are lots of changes happening in education around technology. It's not like it was when I first started teaching. And it freaks us out, and it freaks out lots of people. about how we're going to do this. So you've got new words like this is called phone plan. Okay, this is what you do. And this is not as bad as iPad plan. You know, when you're lying watching iView and it just falls in your face. And so there's lots of new technology. You probably don't even know how you're using some of the stuff. Like some of the stuff you need, you're not even using it correctly. Who would have thought? You can dance if you want. I'm dance. After some workshops are run, everyone goes out and find people in the car park. I haven't tried it, but I guess it works. So there's lots of stuff. And part of it is actually about how we use the technology. And just looking at some of the stuff from John Hattie and some of the research that he looks at and find, we know that the least effective PD is when you get a talking head like me talking at you, particularly around the best way to learn technology is actually to go and play with it and find time and just play. And you can't actually break it. It's all okay. But the more you play and just interact. Now, what's going to happen a day like this with a presentation like mine, you're not going to become technology Jedis like within a couple of hours. You're not going to go off. And it's not about learning every tool. It's what I want you to do is I want you to just think of a couple of kids that you support and have their faces in your mind and just think that there are possibilities for those students where previously there might have only been failure, particularly around reading and writing. And I'm going to talk this through with you. Now, I'm going to use the Google environment only because it's just an environment that I can show everything in one environment, but the principles are exactly the same if you're on a Mac computer, a Windows computer, an iPad or an Android device. But I'm going to use a Google environment. The reason I'm going to use it also, it's actually probably in education, the one that's actually really taking off because it's a cloud-based environment that actually really can give you universal design for kids. So I can actually get access to like today, I've walked in and I couldn't use my computer with all my stuff on it, so that's okay. Damien, wasn't it? Yeah, so Damien said you got to use. So all I did was go in, logged into my Google environment and all my tools appeared. So it's a really different way of looking at things now. And just remember that Hattie said that, you just don't open up the computer screen and it all pops off into your head. We need to think about the teaching and learning that's involved in this process. So, and it's disruptive. The very nature of this is disruptive. It actually makes you think about what you do. We can't keep doing what we've been doing. We need to rethink some of that. And technology kind of shakes us up a little bit because we're going to rethink. So you've employed, with our special friend, you've employed this person to work with that person. We're still going to employ this person, but their job is going to change dramatically because it's not about, there's going to be a bit of a dynamic here. It's going to be a bit of a power difference and a dynamic of how I use this person. So we need to rethink what our roles. Now, a couple of things that we know. So in the work that I do, I work across all systems and do a lot of work in the area of technology, particularly obviously around diversity. And there are some things that are happening at the moment in education. There is this thing called the cloud. And now what's happening is what Michael Fullan calls a dangerous inevitability. The technology is actually inevitable and it can be dangerous, just generally. I mean, we need to teach our kids about their digital footprint. We've got kids doing things in social media that they really need to be aware of because their lives can be impacted. When you enroll now in an Ivy League university in America, you actually have to tell them all your social media links and they look at what you've been doing online. We've got kids who are online who just aren't doing. So the cloud's a dangerous place, but also it's an inevitable. And Fullan talks about when we actually have a dangerous inevitability, we don't sort of block it or walk away. We actually need to move towards it and figure out what we're going to do with this thing. And the cloud provides it. Now the cloud is not those things out there, and apparently you've had lots of them recently. Like the dry is not really the dry anymore. It's like this kind of. Have you had like 6 months of the build up? That's what you just basically had. The cloud is basically what it means is and in education it means rather than we're going to store stuff on local machines, everything we do is stored in the cloud, and the cloud is essentially someone else's hard drive. So when I do my banking at Westpac and I go online and do all my banking online, my details have to sit somewhere, and it sits on a Westpac hard drive somewhere. I don't know where that is. When you actually use Google, all the stuff that I'm doing actually has to physically sit on a hard drive. Can you imagine how big the Google hard drive must be? Well, actually what it is, it's buildings that are just rows and rows of hard drives. So I'm using someone else's hard drive, and all it is the internet is allowing me access to those files wherever I am. So the days of the student going, oh, my thumb drive. Oh, Mr. O'Connor, my assessment task, it's on my thumb. I left my thumb drive at home. Or my computer. Oh, I've got no power from it. That's all right. Could you just go to this computer, open it up, log in with your account, and all your stuff is there. So things like that. So that's happening. BYOD is happening. I'm going to remember to touch screen. I shouldn't touch it. BYOD is happening, bring your own device, and that's actually really cool because it means students bring the device that they want, that they need set up just for them. It freaks us out a bit because it freaks school systems out because all of a sudden I'm losing control because I'm used to actually having this thing, which I control stuff with this thing, and all of a sudden I've got kids turning up at school with one of these. And what they do is we've banned this from our school, and John knows that. So he fronts up with two of them. He makes sure the one that he doesn't want is found easily, and the one that he does want is actually hidden away somewhere. And so things like that. So we actually have to think about how we deal with these things as well, and iPads and so on. Analytics is the other issue that's happening, and I'm going to show you some stuff. We actually have the ability, because it's cloud-based, we can generate information really easily about kids' performance or things that kids do. One thing that we do in teaching and learning around diversity is we're not very good at data. We don't collect it very well, we don't analyse it very well, and we don't make decisions based on that very well. And so this analytics can actually help us. And the other thing is it's rethinking schools and the roles of teachers. This is all happening out there, and we just need to kind of think of how we're going to use it. I love it, because in my classroom, I used to have a sign up on the back of the wall that said, "Why am I doing this?" In my teaching and learning, it's a question I ask myself every day. Why am I doing this? I need to be. It's that action research model where I need to be thinking, I've done this. This was the outcome. Do I need to think differently on how to do that again? So the big question for me, the big dilemma for me, therefore, is how do I use all this technology and all these things that are happening in technology to support struggling learners? So I'm going to actually kind of take you through a little bit of a tour on that. And I want my kids that I teach to no longer be defined by their ability to read and write. I want them to be defined by what they know, how they engage with their learning, how they act, how they feel. That's what I want them to be defined by. So, and I need to think about that because I need to think about how I do that stuff. Now, if you avid readers, lots of the kids that we work with are not avid readers. They don't read at all. Many kids actually do not read and aren't read to. There's a study in the States called the 30 million word gap. They did the study. They looked at students, kids between 0 and 3, and they looked at families in professional families, what they call professional families, middle class families, and at-risk families. The difference at the age of 3, the difference between a child in a professional family and a middle class family, there was a difference. That child in the at-risk family was exposed to 30 million less words than the student in the professional family. 30 million words. And this, and I'll put the paper in your folder of goodies I'll give you, basically said at the age of 3, we could almost identify that student's life path based on that's about families, even not only reading, but even the words they use, how often they talk, the kind of language that happens in the home. So lots of kids who we don't read, by the age of 16, an avid reader will read 400 times more than a non-avid reader. That's 400 times more words they get to look at, words that are in context, words, how they're used, vocabulary. It's amazing. If you read 1 hour a day, you're exposed to 4 million words in a year. If you're read to 1 hour a day, you're exposed to 4 million words in a year. We have kids who do not read, and they'll do anything to get out of reading. If they know that Mrs. Smith, I'm calling Mrs. Smith now, you're having a change in roles here. If Mrs. Smith on a Friday does reading out loud on a Friday, I get sick on a Friday because I'm going to avoid that, because that's actually a painful process for me. I don't like it. And we still have people who get kids to stand out and read out loud. So we need to think about that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a whole bunch of I'm going to use this tool and a whole bunch of other tools in Google Chrome to use that. And we've got a few little tools ourselves. I'm going to show some of our tools. I'm going to show a whole bunch of other things. It's going to be quite quick. And so you just need to kind of go with me on this journey. It's kind of, whoa, you're going to go, whoa, too much information. But just one little thing. We've got a little button that will actually read and write and do a whole bunch of support for you. Just over 18 months, probably more like 2 years, it's gone from 0 subscribers to 4.8 million subscribers. And a few of those are teachers, but roughly about 3 million of those are actually kids pressing the little purple icon to get support. That is amazing. We know we have roughly 3 million people a week using this button to get talk. We know that kids have actually, because we can see the data, the analytics, because it's all in the cloud. We can't see who are the kids. We just see it at global. In May, 60 million sentences were read out with that little button. 60 million sentences that weren't read before. And it makes a difference, you know. And it's all on a simple tool button. So I'm going to actually show you. And it's just like, so in the ACT, they've actually just rolled out some of this stuff across all their students. They've gone completely a Google environment, the ACT. 42,000 kids all have access to these tools. So this is an example. We did some action research pilots. This is a before sample of a student, a year 7 girl. This is what she handed in as an assessment task. 1 month later, using some of the tools I'm going to show you, that's her output. You know. And I'll show you at the end. And I'll give you on my slides, I'm not going to go through all of it, but I'll give you lots of data and show you what the kind of things that happen. And it's kind of goosebumpy. It makes a difference for some kids. I'm going to show you stuff like, go through that. I'm going to show you some things, particularly around text-to-speech, where it reads out to you. I do work in post-school, in tertiary, TAFE, universities, adult literacy environments, and I'll get particularly adult men who come up and go, oh my God, where was this when I was at school? Because lots of those men have spent their whole lives hiding the fact that they can't read and write. Hiding the fact. The adult literacy survey that happened, was a while ago now, but happens in developed countries. In Australia, we actually have 46% of adults, people aged between 15 and 75, are reading at a level that's at a base level or below of what's required to fully function in our digital society. Their reading is not good enough for them in terms of their employment, in terms of being socially connected, and your health. There's a direct correlation between your literacy and your health. You've got examples where people read the side of the Panadol packet to give a dosage to their children, and they literally can't read that information, and they're either under or overdosing their kids. So it's little issues like that. So this is kind of now text to speech. This is like, I'll show you this, and then we should just go go out for coffee or something, because that's all I need to show you, really, this one feature. And probably it's Friday, it's 1:45, we probably could go for coffee or something. But text-to-speech, it's basically what I can show you on every device that you have in your schools. Built into that device is the ability for that device to read text back to you. We just don't know how to turn it on or actually how to show our kids. And we need to actually have that stuff digitized. So we have lots of these, and these are really important, but we need to have more than one copy, one version of that. We need to have multiple formats. We need to have a printed format, and we probably need to have a digital format, because as soon as that's on the screen, I can read it. Now, what happens is that we read, when you leave high school in year 12, you should be reading at about 200 words per minute. That's the norm. And I'll give you a little table of what the norms are for reading levels and so on. That's what we should be reading at. And we speak at about 150 to 170 words per minute. Apart from me, I speak quicker sometimes, plus I mumble and I don't, that's right. Now, what happens if you read below 100 words per minute, you can't comprehend what you're reading. So if I just take something on the desk here, I have to read this prayer. The most, and what I'm doing, I'm so focused on decoding, I'm taking so long, I cannot get meaning from the text. And we have lots of kids, the stress of decoding results in the fact that they don't comprehend anything that they read. In fact, they will avoid that process under all circumstances. And so we need to kind of think about tools that can do that. Now, I'm going to show you some stuff, and I'll put this in your packet of goodies. There's some research that audio actually promotes literacy. And some of you are going to say, oh, we can't do that, because if we just have the stuff available for our students, and if they can just get something on the screen and it's read back, kids who can't read will never learn to read, and kids who can read will just become lazy because the machine. And we actually know the fact that the opposite happens. When you provide an accommodation and an adjustment to a behaviour, the behaviour generally increases, almost always does. An example of that is signing. When they introduced signing to the deaf community in America in the 1940s, parents were concerned that the use of sign language would diminish vocalization. Signing actually promoted speech. When you actually add accommodations to literacy programs, it actually supports, and actually is more likely that students will hang into remediation and learn to read. That the kids who can already read this, they just won't use it, but they'll use it for other things. And kids who can't read, we're going to keep them engaged, because by the time it's by the time they get to year 7, and literacy has associated behaviours such as school attendance, self-esteem, behaviours, a whole lot of behaviours. If you did a functional behaviour analysis of a lot of behaviours, a lot of it goes back to the fact that the student is struggling because they can't access the curriculum because of the level of reading and writing required. So I'm going to show you a whole bunch of stuff. So what happens? I will go into here and just get rid of that number. So I've got we're doing. I didn't tell you we're doing elephants today, class. Remember we told you that last week. Elephants is our subject. So here now I would normally have given that out in my teaching career as a handout. And actually in the back of my classroom, I've got 4 folders, term 1, 2, 3, and 4. And each folder I divided into weeks, 1, 2, 3. And each week I divided the days, 1. And I have a handout for every, and I've been using those handouts, and I love those handouts. And so it's, what is it, term 2, week 5? It's term 2, week 5, day 4 handout time. My favourite handout. It'll give it all out to all the kids. I got this from a blackline master about 20 years ago. I don't know where it is now. And I've been photocopying it over again. It's a bit faded, but don't worry about that. I do worry about it because I give it out and half my guys can't read it. A couple of my guys see blue print and they click it thinking it's a hyperlink. So that handout is still important, but I also need to digitize that. If I can provide that handout on the screen, then I can actually, my students can start to interact with that. And so my student over here, rather than actually having the Velcro person who's going to read the handout to them, as long as the Velcro person has got that handout up on their screen, and in this case it's in Google Drive, Mary opens it up, she puts her cursor there, and she can read it. Now what happens is in the Google environment, some of you may be not familiar with the whole, you just think Google's like a search engine. It's so much more than a search engine. As long as you've got Google Chrome installed on your machine, when you sign in with your Gmail account or whatever school account, you get a whole bunch of tools. One of them is actually Google Docs, which, by the way, is Microsoft Word, for want of a better word. If you've got a Microsoft Word document, you can put it into Google Drive. Google Drive will automatically convert it to a Google Doc. You can edit it, and when you're finished editing it, you then go to File, and you then go to Download. Oops, go to File. You go to Download as a Microsoft Word document, and you give it back. You actually don't need to own Microsoft Office anymore, because there's also Google Slides, which is the same as PowerPoint. Google Sheets, the same as Excel. So they're all there. So, and what you can also do is you can also go to the Chrome store and buy a whole bunch of extensions and apps, or actually a lot of them are free. So it's a bit like the iPad World, where you go and get apps. There's a whole bunch of tools you can put into Chrome to extend its capabilities. And if I was to go to the Chrome store and type in text-to-speech, I'd get a whole lot of extensions I can use. Now, some of them are free, some of them are paid, it depends. Often they're free for a reason. Often free means it's not quite what you wanted, or it's a light version or whatever. I'm going to use Read and Write for Google Chrome, and what we're doing at the moment, this tool is free for all teachers, regardless of what you do in your school. You just get this tool, and I'll send you a link via Jane that you can pass on to everybody about how you can all get this extension. So this is going to be an extension that you'll have. And when I log into my account, I open up my doc, this little icon this is a little the little purple icon that's being hit 3 million times by 3 million subscribers per week. I hit on that, and it gives me a little toolbar appears. I have all these tools, and I can't read this, so I can actually hit that toolbar, and it's I've got it continuously reading it now, because I've got a kid who's never seen that document before, and so I know he's reading below 100 words per minute. He doesn't. If he tried to decode that, he's not going to understand it. I just get them to read it, have it read to them. So they're just going, oh, it's about elephants. That's cool. Then they can go back, and now they can go back and do a whole lot of other stuff, decoding and comprehension. So this is available in a whole range of tools. That's it. No, that's not chucking. But actually, for some people, that is a life-changing moment, because all of a sudden they go, "Oh, okay, that means I can." Let's get rid of this. I just need to go to a new tab. Okay. That's better. If I go to a website, and I'm on a website because we're about elephants, pull up here, I call up the little toolbar that I've got, the Read and Write for Google Chrome toolbar. It turns up, and I can just click on there, and any web page that I go to, simply by hovering over the text. And you go, what? So, where do you do your banking? Where do some of you do your banking? At a bank? Some of you do it on your phone, online. Where, if you're under the age of, I don't know, under my age, where do you find out where the party is on Saturday night? You go to where? Facebook. If you're my wife, where do you do your shopping? Apart from Woolies, online. What are all those things require you to be able to do? You have to be able to read, and you have to be able to write. So your literacy not only impacts your learning, it impacts how connected you are in your society. It impacts upon a whole range of other things, and all of a sudden, this opens up, and I go, how cool is that? And then I think, okay, now my problem is, I'm giving that out to my kids. Now it's being read to them. Groovy, fab, far out. Apparently I say cool too much. My daughter, who's 24, said, Dad, you're just saying cool too many times. It's just like, anyway. I give this out, and one of the things I look at it and I go, do just because it's being read to my kids doesn't mean they actually comprehend anything. It's just words coming off the screen. The highlighting is cool because see how it was highlighting? That's like a digital finger. So they're actually watching it. But I need to give them some additional support. So I need to actually make sure that they've got some comprehension and vocab stuff. So they might get to the first word and they go, I don't know what that word is. They can call up the picture dictionary, and it's a definition that's actually speech enabled. That's cool. Lots of definitions are not speech enabled. So they can listen to the definition, they can't listen to it. And so what's this thing? Phytopagan, clearly. I've got no idea what that is. And so often definitions are actually very complex. Dictionary definitions are often at a literacy level much higher than the reader, and they're also culturally biased. So I need to kind of think about an alternative. So I can also put my cursor there and click on another button, and we actually have embedded in that tool picture dictionary. And so that's an elephant, whether you're in Wadeye, or Lismore, or Bangkok, or London, wherever you are. That's a picture of an elephant. In fact, when I'm using Google, I will actually often tell kids that what they need to do is they need to go into. I'll get some of my kids to bookmark a new search engine. Their homepage is actually Google Images. Because it's their new comprehension tool. And so they're doing Roman history, and they can look up viaduct. What's a viaduct? About £2.10 a week. So it's an very old joke, which I like. So they put in. Now I'll just try this.
Really old.
Wait, what you said? Reading.
Okay. If I wasn't using my own machine, I could press this button and just say the word viaduct and it would work. I don't even need to type it in. I'm just going to say it, but I'm not on my machine. So I'm just going to type the word in, and I show the students this viaduct. Do a search. That's a viaduct. So use Google Images as a comprehension tool because that gives you meaning really quickly. So I'm doing this for this, and then I'm kind of thinking, oh, that's really cool. I'm teaching grade 5, and I'm thinking, I wonder how easy it is that what the grade level is of that material I'm about to give my grade 5 kids. So I know what the grade level of that is, what the reading age of that material is, how easy it is. Even in my community, in my school community, I know there's a direct correlation between the literacy of my students and my community. There's a direct correlation. So my kids' literacy is reflected in their homes. I'm sending home school newsletters, or I've got a school website. Have I ever thought about how complex that material is for my community to read? Do I provide other ways for that to be read? So I think, how could I find that out? How could I do? There's a couple of little things I can do. There's a website called, I'm going to be doing all sorts of stuff here, so I need to, I can unpin it, I think. Beautiful. Okay. It's a website called Now, I've never used this machine before, but because I've logged in with my Gmail account, I typed in the first 3 letters of this website. But because I go to all the time, on this machine, it's just recognised that's where you normally go. Like, it's a literacy tool. That's really cool as well because I don't have to do a whole bunch of keystrokes. I get straight to the website. But I go there, and this is called Rewordify, this website. Okay, and it opens up. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to this document. I'm going to select all and copy. I'm then going to go back to Rewordify and paste in the text. And I say to Rewordify that document. What it does, it analyzes that document. And the first thing, one of the things it does, I go to the stats tab, and it tells me the grade level of that text. So it tells me what the reading grade. Now it's American grade level, so it's not quite precise, but it gives me a ballpark figure. I could have actually just pasted in a website URL, and we do the same thing for a website. So I come from Lismore. So what do you think? So in New South Wales, we have a number of papers. We have the Daily Telegraph. What do you think the reading age of the Daily Telegraph is?
10.
grade 4. The Sydney Morning Herald, about grade 8. The Australian is about grade 9 to 10, a bit higher. Northern Territory News. I don't know. But if you recognise the crocodile picture, you're pretty welcome to read the paper. But that's a terrible joke, I didn't mean that. But it also has a reading ease. Reading ease is, there's all these different reading scales. It gives you a whole stats. Reading ease, if you have 100% is really easy, 0% is really difficult. So this is 64, 67. So it's relatively not too bad to read. But I'm teaching grade 5. And this is reading at a grade 6 level. I need to be really careful about how I provide this. Wow. Now, the other thing I go over here is there's another tab here called, what way it's going to work? Parts of speech. And it will colour code. And I go, oh, that's awesome. Now, I'm from Lismore, which is near Nimbin, and we're into this kind of stuff. We're kind of look for colours here. And you know what, kids? You know what? When you read something, nouns are really important because nouns are your vocab. If you don't understand the nouns, you're not going to understand what you're reading. So what I'll do is I'll go through and turn off the pronouns and I'll turn off these. And see those blue words? Wow. That's my vocab. I'm still going to give that document to my students, but I'm going to pre-teach some vocab before we get there. I'm going to actually scaffold for them before they get there. So I go, that's cool. Okay, I've got that. So then I go back to my document and what I can do here is I can go through and highlight those words. And in the Read and Write for Google Chrome toolbar, we actually have highlighters. So I can go, okay, I'm going to highlight elephants. And I might highlight earth. You know, all the nouns, I'll just go through and get a couple just to extinct, whatever. And once I've highlighted a bunch of those, I can go and press this button called the vocabulary button. And what it will do, it will take the words that I've highlighted, dump them into a new Google Doc. In that new Google Doc, put a table. In that table, put 4 columns. In the first column, like knock on the wall, it happens faster. In that first column, it will put the word that I've highlighted. It's thinking, here it comes. In the second column, the definition. In the third column, the image for the word, and a fourth column for me to do other stuff with. How cool is that? And so, and because it's a Google Doc, I can edit that. So I might over here, I might put this, write your own definition, or put that word in a sentence. So I can also take out things. So over here, I've got different definitions. I might take some of those out. It will do things like, it also gives me the chance to do other things down here. Like one of the words might have been savannah. Elephants are in savannah. And so I'll get students to put it there, put the dictionary, and it turns up. It's a homophone. It's a confusable word. But that's a lovely way to teach that concept. Because look, that can be a girl's name or a landform. And so those teachable moments come up. So that's what ICT, it can't teach. But me teaching, I can use this stuff. I can also do things like if I come back to here, I come back to here and I go, okay. So Mary, is it Mary? Laura.
Mary. She likes Mary though.
Actually, it's
Mary Smith.
Mary's better.
I'm close.
Okay. Well, I'm actually Reg. I'm known as Reg, so Greg with a silent G. Yeah, so anyway, we don't want to do this. So Mary wants to differentiate in her classroom. The differentiation is difficult. Differentiation requires when someone says, "Oh, Mary, you can differentiate. You're cool." It takes time and stuff, and you go, okay. What I can do, what Mary can do, she'd go, okay. Mary's going to give this to her students. So one of her kids is going to get that document, but she's got one kid who needs some visual supports. And they could use the picture dictionary, but she's going to do that in advance. So she's going to put her cursor there, for instance, and she's going to call up here and get elephants. Come along. Do it again. Here it comes. And then when it comes up, I can simply drag that in and put it in my document. And now I've actually got. Now I'm actually quickly differentiated. So I'm actually kind of doing something. And the cool thing about technology, there's that cool word again, is that this is also cool. I mean, teaching's a cool thing. This is also cool. But the cool thing about differentiation in technology is I can quickly make a second copy of that. I'm actually differentiating that for my students. So, okay. So I'm having fun, you know, this is all awesome. This is all awesome stuff. So I'm using dictionary support and vocabulary support and all that kind of stuff. And I know, in fact, Hattie talks about the fact that there is research to indicate that when you link images to text, you actually improve comprehension, you know, and it's really important. So I do that. Then I'm thinking, oh, okay, great. My term 2, week 4, day 3 handout, I really do need to have that on the computer, don't I? So I need to give that to my kids. Here's Mary's computer. Doesn't seem to want to fit in that. How do I get? So I scan it. I can scan it in. That's a good idea. So I go to the head clerical person and I grovel and I ask very nicely and I put a request in 4 weeks in advance. Can I use the scanner? And yep, you can. So I find the scanning machine, which I need an engineering degree to run. Can figure out what settings to run it on. So I finally figure it out and I open it up and I think it goes this way. Close the lid, press scan, hoping it's the right format, and it sends it somewhere. And it's called 457649 and it's gone somewhere in the system. Then I've got to figure out how to get it from there onto Mary's computer. No. Mary walks around with one of these that has a camera. That is a scanner. We don't need a scanner. You just need to have a device with a camera, even a camera. And I can take a picture of any text in the environment and I can scan it in and that text will be read back to me. So what I'll do is I'll do things like, I'll go back to my drive and go to training resources. So here is that's a picture that I took of some text. So I just cropped it for this exercise. So that's just some text. I just took a picture. And it could have been an actual digital camera. I put my SD card in. But what I'm doing with kids is they actually make sure they have their Google Drive on their device. And so when they take the picture's automatically put into their Google Drive. And so when they put their device down and open up their computer, the image is there. And I just show them that what they can do is they find that picture, they do a right-hand click and they go open with Google Docs. Google Docs will actually scan that in automatically and do something close to magic. It will scan it in and it will use optical character recognition. It will put the picture in the Google Doc and recognize that some of those things are words and will take the words out of the picture and put those words actually into the Google Doc. So there's the picture. It's actually literally taken the words. Now I can actually use those words and I can now read that back.
It's amazing. Yeah.
Now I feel the excitement. You're not kind of showing it a lot. But,
I'm super excited. I'm so
yeah.
excited.
Well, the thing is that I'm passionate around around kids who struggle, and the fact is that they struggle for lots of reasons, and often their struggles are not kid related. It's actually us. You know, we're the barriers, and some of these tools are just omnipresent. And it's almost a social justice issue if we don't provide these tools for our kids. And I'm not talking, what I've done this process, I haven't used anything else. I've just used what's actually already in the Google environment. I've just used that. Now the Google thing is, I'm kind of like, oh my God, Google. You've got to get, oh, Google's dangerous. Like I was actually, so I'm going back to the Seychelles for a holiday to meet up with all our old teachers and stuff. So I was talking to a friend about it on the phone. The next day I went to Gmail to write something. And in the corner, ads come up, and ads started to appear about the Seychelles. How did Google know that I've been talking? I mean, they watch everything I do. So we're kind of a bit freaked about this. But the trouble is, I need to realise there's a part of technology I need to be really conscious of, but it affords too many possibilities for my kids for me to just block it. Also, I need to kind of think about the fact that I need to be open to it. We tend to follow technology like a footy team. Oh, I'm an iPad person. No, I'm a Mac person. Well, we're a Windows school, and we don't, and so we kind of, and we won't think of anything else because And why are you a Mac person? Oh, because I really like Steve Jobs. I think he was great. Why are you Windows? I didn't like Steve Jobs as skivvies. I thought they were really. In fact, I've actually been in a diocese in Australia somewhere where Macs weren't put into schools because the head of IT didn't like them. When we start to when we start to allocate technology based on a personal preference, not on an educational outcome, it's a problem. When we start to allocate technology based on a cost issue, you know, I'd rather get 5 really good devices than 20 cheap ones. And the other thing with BYOD is I like that even better because Mary is going to get the device that she wants. Now we've got issues around social justice and around access. So the digital divide, you've heard that term, is not generational. My 87-year-old mother is a bit of a Facebook Jedi. I mean, what she can't do on Facebook can't be done. In fact, she'll probably be following me now and actually putting questions like, you know, are you wearing clean underwear? Do you have a hanky in your pocket? We don't have hankies anymore, Mum. We carry earbuds, but it doesn't matter. So lots. It's still generational. The digital divide is socio-economic and geographical. It's whether you can afford to get access to technology, and it's whether you physically can access to it. You know, so in the territory, there are some places that you just physically can't get onto the internet. It's just this is just a reality. And there are some communities when it's, you know, there are no technology. Although having said that, I think the stats in Australia currently for teenagers is something like 95% own a smartphone.
And that's over the last 6 years that it's come in a community.
Yeah. In China, India, they've just produced a $5 smartphone, which is basically an iPhone rip-off for $5. There are 2.4 billion people in India. They're about to all be walking around with one of these, and they've probably got better Wi-Fi and better access in India than we actually have here. So that's an issue. But I just give my kids these tools. Now, what I can also do, I can also go in and I can sometimes I want to scan that in for my students. I want them to scan it in, and I want them to actually not take the words out of the image. I want them to keep the whole thing because it's actually important, the way it's constructed with images and stuff. So I was in Manila in a school, and it was in the drama class, and the drama teacher said, we don't do reading, we do drama. You know, I mean, they've got to read their scripts and stuff, but that's okay. And around the drama room with all these signs. So I took a photo of one of those signs, and using an app called Snapverter, which I'll give you all access to, what it does, it takes the photo, it scans it in and converts the photo to a PDF. And so when it does that, I can, then I have it in my Google Drive. With Read and Write for Google Chrome, it now will read all PDFs. So Read and Write will actually read the PDF. So when I say that's now a PDF, it'll come up. Here it comes. And you'll see the photo, it looks like a photo, but it's actually now a PDF. And Read and Write will actually put its own little toolbar in the PDF, so it becomes a PDF reader. Here it comes. And up comes the image. So that's the sign. You see, I just took it was a laminated sign in the school. And if I scroll down here and I wanted to be able to read that, I just press my click to speak, hover over a word, and it's read down. Why not? So essentially, it's turned that picture into a fully and then I can also, if this was an assessment task that the student took a photo of the assessment task is, you know, question answer. They could take a photo, upload it to their Google Drive. This will now read the question for them, and when they want to come to answer the question, they can press the annotate button, my answer. They can check how it sounds. They can also, we'll see whether this works, is elephant. And it is using my voice. I can put my answer into the, I didn't quite do it for me, but that's okay. Once I've got that there, I've now annotated my assessment task. So I've worked with kids who a month ago were not doing any of that, and all of a sudden by giving them access to a camera and this device in the drive, they're now actually interacting with their learning material. I was in Hong Kong, I'm just name dropping now. I was in Hong Kong, a teacher in Hong Kong, in a Hong Kong international school, said to the students, I want you to read pages 5 to 10 and do exercises on page 11, 1 to 3. You know what the kids do? They didn't actually take the exercise book home. They took out their phones on the Google, put it in their Google Drive. By the time they got home, each page had been converted to a PDF. They then read each page, then they went to the questions, read the questions, and then they actually answered the questions using the annotation. And these were students that English was not their first language. And so they were interacting with it. A whole different dynamic. It made the teacher think about, well, how do I now provide that kind of information, you know? The days of just lugging home big textbooks. What do I need? Those kids were doing just in time, just in need. I only need those 5 pages at the moment, so I'm just going to take a picture of them and take them home. So that's called shoulder syndrome. That's called OCR, optical character recognition, where you can use things like Snapfurter. That's what I was using. But the other thing is, I can also use when you get the little toolbar. And again, I'm going to give you some tools that will let you do this, but you need to kind of think beyond that these tools are available in lots of other places as well. If I was to go back to here, you see in this doc I've given my kids, I've actually put in an image into that doc, and that image, this is text, but it's actually part of the picture. So I haven't scanned that. So on my toolbar, I've got a thing called the screenshot reader up here. When I click on that, I can actually make a rectangle around any words in an image, and it will scan and just analyze that part of the image, and then it will read back to me. So any text on my screen, even stuff locked into a diagram or a picture, can all be just read back. That's it. No, it's not it. I'm saying. But it just kind of, whoa. So really your ability to read should not define who you are. In fact, what will happen is that a lot of kids who struggle, this keeps them engaged. They kind of say, yeah, I see the reason why I need to, I'm there. And the whole reading process. For one thing, remember those 4 million words a year that they weren't exposed to? All of a sudden, they're actually getting words read to them. I mean, even things like, if I go back to here, say this was an assessment task that I get rid of a few things. Say my students actually wrote this. This is they're going to hand it in. Lots of kids write and hand in and never review and never proofread their writing. But if they do proofread it, they read it in their own heads, and you never pick up your own mistakes. Just get them to do text-to-speech as a proofing tool. We did a little project, not a big project, in the ACT, and put this into one of the schools. I'm just going to scroll down here. It is Lanyon High School, and they put some of these tools in, put text-to-speech into the school, and it's across the whole school. And they asked the kids what kind of features they were using, and 88% of the kids in that school said they used text-to-speech for proofreading. So when they actually, before they handed in an assessment task, they just had their assessment task read back to them, and they generally went and made corrections. You know, when you write that angry email and you decide not to send it to the next morning, you do that process. It's a very good idea to do. But before you send it, use text-to-speech to read your email back to yourself, because I have issues around spelling and grammar and stuff. Just by actually having the email read to me before I send it, I'm always picking up errors, particularly things around autocorrect can be problematic. And I just, makes you change. Now this kid here, over here, he used this really functionally, like he decided this was really important for him. So this is his first draft of writing. Then then he actually listened to he actually read it back, had the computer read it back to him. He went, I can use some other words in there. That's his second draft. That's his third draft, simply by using text-to-speech as a proofing tool. And lots of our kids never get their work proofed by people who don't actually read it back to them. So as a tool, it's a really functional idea. Now, as you can see, So that's kind of that reading, reading, and to be an avid reader is really important, and it can change someone's life. Not only obviously them reading, but also having words read, actually engaging with text, and you'll get a discussion around, well, it's not really reading unless you actually read it yourself, and there's a level of that discussion. But I'm giving my students scaffolds that they're encountering text, they can't read it, it's being read back to them, but they've also got all these other tools that they can actually think about what does that mean for them. But there are tools, but if I was to look at reading instruction, we know so much about the actual teaching of reading, the big six, vocab, fluency, comprehension, phonics, phonological awareness, and oral language. We know this is so much we know about reading instruction. It's not funny. We don't often do it, and there's often lots of other things out there that people talk about. And I'm really interested in vocab, fluency, and comprehension as a thing. And so that kind of thing I talked before about the cloud affords us the tools that we've never had to do before. So, and things like analytics. So I've got, so things like, so how can we teach fluency using something like in the Google environment? It's actually giving students supported, repeated reading opportunities, which they don't often get. We actually need to get them doing some reading as well. We're about to embed in the Reader for Google Chrome toolbar a little button where kids can actually record themselves reading and send that reading file to their teacher. Because we actually have a little program that can do that. Because what happens is we want to help them think about fluency, which is quickly, accurately, and reading with expression, as an example. Does anyone do that kind of thing now? It's actually where you actually record a student, you then listen to the reading, and you actually manually score. Well, we can do things like there's a program, another one that I'll send you, called Fluency Tutor, and what it does, it essentially, now this is going to be this is all really quick, and I get more and more tabs open. But if I Fluency Tutor, I install this. This is an example of what's happening. I install this in my Chrome browser as a teacher, and it gives me a program called Fluency Tutor. Thank you. Okay. I have some students on my dashboard, and I've got these kids that I'm sending stuff to. One of them's called Greg. Okay. But what I can do is I can share a passage. So I want to share some passages with Greg. Send Greg some reading material. The program comes already built in a whole bunch of reading. It's already has Lexile and reading aids all constructed, and I might decide that I'm going to send what's an easy one? This one here. This one to Greg. So what I can do, that's what he has to want him to read. It comes as a passage. It also has built into it comprehension questions, already built into it, and I can share that with Greg directly on via Google Drive, or if I'm using Google Classroom, I can send it to my whole class. So I just send Greg that passage. When he gets it, he can actually read it. He can have text to speech, got all those dictionary, all those tools. He can read it, he practices it, then he reads the file, he reads the story, and presses finishes, and it automatically sends me back his reading. And so when I go back to recent activity, I can see that Greg has read that, and I can go in now and score him reading that passage. So open it up. So Greg had read this. Thanks. And he starts to read. Up. He made a hesitation, so I can quickly drop down menu and I can score hesitation, insertion, substitution, all that scoring. So I choose hesitation. And that was a substitution. And you can see my transportation, whatever it is, a self-correction. And when it gets to a level, I can mark the last word. And it automatically, as I've recorded all of this, it automatically tells me how many words per minute Greg's reading at, and what his errors are, gives me all this data. I can then, when I've done that, if I've scored that correctly, or hadn't done it really. I save the scoring, and then it comes up with a rubric, and I can then determine porosity. You know, how was the expression? I'm just going to make this up as I go. It was like that. How was the phrasing? It was like that. I use this rubric. That, and then I can give Greg a little comment. Great reading, whatever it is. Spell it correctly. You go finish. Now Greg gets sent back my little comment. Great work, look forward. And now if I go back into my students, I'm starting to get details of, if I go back to Greg, and go back to here. That's me. But I'm now actually getting, it's actually keeping data for me about Greg's fluency and his reading. And all of a sudden, it will also, I can generate passages, my own passages. I can go to websites, my own content. It's just another way of actually using the tool to actually get that information.
Can that data be exported?
And that data can now be exported as an Excel spreadsheet. I can also share that with another student. I can do a whole bunch of stuff with that. Yeah. With that.
And when you're doing the classification of errors, are there keyboard shortcuts, or we always got to?
You got to actually interact. Yeah.
It's a bit slow.
Yeah, but one of the things that we have found when we're developing all this is that we often get reading tutors to come in and do that coding, and they don't often code. There's no consistency in the coding. Also remote. So in terms of people in remote areas where we actually, this has not been done very well. This actually allows you to actually send to that situation. But also in my classroom, I can have 4 groups of students in my classroom, and I can just push out this to different kids, and I can be doing group activities in my room, and they're all doing their reading and interacting, and it's just another way of managing. I'm using the tools that are available to me to rethink about how I deliver this kind of instruction.
So, because a lot of the feedback is that teachers say they don't have time to do, a regular running record with kids, and that's where, I mean, not that we want to say we want them to do all the work after school, but if you could record 3 kids and get them done, it's just going to keep things on.
It is. And so we're going to put the recording button also up here on this toolbar now, because we realise that kids could be using that and they go, oh, I want to read that, and they can just read that, hit the button, and it'll send it to me, and then I can either just give them a thumbs up or whatever, or I can say, oh, the school, I might actually go and score that. So you get this whole, and kids can generate their own reading passages. It really changes the way we actually think about some of the instructional stuff, and also gives us some data, some real data. Now we're doing the same thing. I'll talk a bit later about that. So that's just an example of, but I don't want to spend time. So that's an example of kind of reading support. But as I'm doing all this, I'm realising that many of our students with literacy difficulties, kids who struggle, kids struggling learners, they also have associated disorganisational issues and working memory. They're getting from home to school is like a major event. Even actually surviving breakfast at home can be a major event. And no wonder they turn up and go, oh, sir, I've lost my thumb drive. They haven't come to school intentionally to really annoy me. They actually literally are just overloaded. And particularly around working memory issues. Working memory is actually, so you've got 3 types of memory. I probably don't need to tell the stuff. You've got your short-term, working, and long-term. What we do know is that a lot of our kids actually struggle to retain at least 4 items in their working memory. Apparently, when you enter school, you can actually have about 2 items in your working memory when you can kind of juggle all this stuff. And as you go through, that increases to 4 to 5. When you get to 29, you can deal with 7 to 9 bits of working memory at a time. So you can be texting and over here you can be having a selfie, and after 29, it's all downhill again, and you fall back. I have trouble frying an egg, let alone doing anything else. So, but it's an issue for our kids, and we overload them all the time. And even the way I use my instructional language in classrooms, I mean, I'm the kind of person as a teacher who generally thinks shouting is a good idea because you're going to be heard better. Well, no, I should use a regular voice. I should slow down because I know that I need to not talk so quickly, but I don't want to talk too slowly because it's going to affect comprehension. So, and I tend to clap my hands a lot, thinking that's going to get your attention. Come on along. And I never repeat myself. If I do, I'll kind of do, I've told you twice, but this student might actually need 40 repetitions. So I'm not even sure whether I'm getting through. So and I never pair. So just that whole, I'm just overloading kids, and I kind of go, okay, everyone, can you put your iPads down? Please put them in your bags. go to the door. When you get to the door, we'll head down to the canteen and I'll see you down there and we'll go off. I've given like 12 instructions with no gap, no pause. And I look around my room and all the kids stand up and they leave. And I think, how cool am I? I'm like the best teacher ever. But what happened is that Mary is the only kid knows what I'm talking about. And everyone else knows that Mary knows. So they just watch whatever Mary does and they do the same thing and off they go. And I'm thinking, I'm the teacher, but Mary's actually the one driving the classroom. So I need to think about working memory and I need to think about what I'm asking my kids to do in technology. And text-to-speech is a great tool to support cognitive overload because what it does, it relieves the burden of decoding first up. Whenever students encounter text for the first time when they're struggling, they just should have it read to them. Just so they get to know it's about elephants. I can now just calm down and I can go back and do what I've got to do. Because often you must read it. So they struggle when they don't do it at all. Lets them focus on comprehension. It reduces the cognitive load and it improves endurance and completion. So my mum, who's 87, she has an iPad and we gave her the Agatha Christie collection on her iPad because she's an avid reader. She has her printed books, but when she's on the train and stuff, she likes to read. When she opens up her Agatha Christie book on her iPad that she's reading, in the morning she just reads it and it's all cool. In the afternoon she gets tired, her eyes get particularly tired, so she can increase the font size of her text in iBooks. She doesn't have to require large print to she just does it herself. At night time when she goes to sleep, she gets really tired. You know what she does? She turns on text-to-speech and she just has the book. So my mum differentiates herself during the day. And she doesn't have the same need all day. She has different needs, but she actually is controlling it. And the same with our kids. Often they have to wait for someone else to give them what they need. And the more they have control, and often they have to self-disclose. I'm not reading very well. Could you give me a tool? It doesn't happen, particularly boys, particularly Indigenous boys are not going to come and say, I'm struggling here. But if we can put tools, if we have text-to-speech just built into that menu bar that's actually always there, they don't need to ask for the tool. The tool is just there for them to use, and they'll use it as they want. And so we need to kind of think about cognitive load. So if I go back to here, there's a couple of things. I mean, there's a couple of just to show you quickly. If I go back to here, there's other things in technology. The white background is really glary for lots of us, and it actually can be quite a cognitively loaded. Looking at that, there's an extension. So on the Google Doc that you're going to get, I've got a whole bunch of extensions. Most of them are free that you can use to embed into your Google environment, and one of them is this one called Screen Shader. What Screen Shader will do will actually colour the screen for you and tint it a different colour. And you might have some students who say, I need a blue coloured tint for whatever reason. Well, they can go in and actually just make that adjustment themselves. They can actually go, I want to have blue coloured. So it just reduces the tint. The other cool thing about this extension is it's actually related to the time of the day. So it will automatically adjust itself to the time of the day. So in the middle of the day, it's actually going to be brighter. At night time, it's actually going to go lighter. It makes its own adjustments based on the time of the day. So you just have to do that kind of screen shading. Sometimes things like, I'm getting a bit of a tab thing happening here. You know how many tabs I've got open? And lots of our kids just get like there's tabs, there's stuff all over the place. It's like, whoa, are you one of the people who go, I can't close that tab? Because that's a really important website. If I close it on them, by the way, you could just bookmark it, just saying, hashtag. But, so you keep it open and you go, oh no, I'm not going to keep it. And then, so what you do is you gently close your computer, you come back tomorrow, open it up, and it takes half an hour for the browser to load, or the tab goes up. There's an extension called One Tab, and when I press One Tab, it takes all my tabs and actually puts them into a list. It just makes it. And so when I go about tomorrow, it's only going to open up one tab, and then I can go restore all, and it will restore all those tabs back to how they were. If I go back to one tab again, I'm going to really it's really going to freak this out. One tab here. So that's a kind of a cool thing. Now, what I also can do, looking at that, is just as an idea. ICT, it can't teach, but what could I do with that? Oh, so I'm doing some research. So we're going to start doing some writing in a minute, and I'm going to about elephants. So I'm going to send you all these elephant websites. So I've given you a document, hopefully not where you have to type it in, hopefully an electronic document. And I might list the 12 websites I want you, have 11 for the research project. So what I do is I open up a new window. I open up the 11 websites I want you to use for your research project. I then tab it to make a list. I then go to share as a web page. It's now going to make a web page of that list. So this is the new web address. Also gives me a QR code. If I just send that web link to students, they get the whole 12, 11. So it's a really nice way of just delivering content.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go back to here. Are you getting information overload?
No, this is great.
Restore.
Greg, if you've got all, if you're using Google Classroom and you've got tools, you know, read to text and so on in there, and I've got a class who are then linked into, you know, into Google Classroom.
Yep.
On their computer, do those tools also appear?
So using Google Classroom, you can set it up. It depends on how you set up. The kids can install these extensions themselves.
Yep.
Or you can go, every kid in my class needs to have this half a dozen extensions.
Okay, yep.
When they open up Google, go to their account, they all appear. And because you've actually loaded them up, they can't delete them either.
Okay.
You manage them. And so what happened is the Read and Write for Google Chrome tool, so in the ACT, it's actually, there's 42,000 kids. All those kids have that toolbar. I mean, how awesome is that? But the is when kids log in, a toolbar just appears, and yeah, they don't have to worry about it. So it's really, Google Classroom's a really manageable platform for that. And so that fluency tutor one I showed you before, I could say I want to send that to a group of students. I could send it to into my classroom, and all the students get the same reading passage, or I can do all sorts of stuff with that too.
Cool.
So I need to go back to here. In terms of other, there's lots of other tools. Just the fact that I'm going to this website here, whoops, and I want to. So I realise actually it's really good if my kids read before. I've never seen this website before. Wouldn't it be good to have it read to you? There's a extension called Enuncify. When I press Enuncify, it will actually take that web page. I'm using the long. And you can see what it's doing. I'm gonna stop it because I can't control the volume there. You see what it did? It took the web page, took everything off that wasn't there, it brought up the text. So I can go and make it adjust the voice. It started to read it back to me, and then it showed out the things it didn't want. It was only showing me one paragraph at a time, and then just quickly the student just presses the button and they're having it read to them. Now the voice is important. Like this, it was an American voice, and in lots of these programs you can actually go in and change the accent. And so I've got so I'm using Karen, you know, the Australian voice Karen. That's on your GPS. There's also the Australian series. She's actually a real person. Her name's Karen Isenberg, and she's called she calls herself Karen the GPS girl. She makes a living. So what happened in 2006? She answered an ad for a voice actress. She got the gig. They recorded a voice. I think it was in a New York recording studio for 30 hours, and based on that 30 hours of recording, we now have the Karen voice. And now she makes a living just doing international talking circuit, where she talks about being the GPS girl. She's got a Facebook page that you can stalk or follow her on that Facebook. And she tells stories about, she'll be talking at a conference and people come up and apologise for swearing at her on the way. Because, Karen, what do you mean? The second exit at the roundabout. Don't you mean just go straight through? Anyway, all that kind of stuff.
Don't men often change it from a female voice to a male voice because they don't been told by women?
Not Karen.
Yeah, I use Karen. I tend to use female
I quite
voice.
like
Lee. My wife likes Lee because he has a nice voice.
When you get angry.
Now, what will happen with voices while I'm here, text-to-speech, is a couple of things. We need to make sure, what you tend to do is you tend to want to have an Australian accent and talk slowly. Can we slow it down and we can have an Australian accent? You know, people meet someone who's blind and they go, hello, I can see that you're thinking loudly and slowly is going to, no, speak at a normal rate and don't speak too slowly because of comprehension issues. The fact the accent is not really important unless you're teaching pronunciation. And really not going to use text-to-speech for pronunciation, although you might have an English language learner who wants to hear how that word is pronounced in Australian English. That might be the case. But generally, let the kids choose the voice, and they'll choose the French accent sometimes because it sounds sexy when it's read out to them. My name is very good. Elephants are very large animals, whatever. But you'll actually, and what you'll also have is you'll have kids who will actually write out inappropriate words on a Google Doc. Then they'll have those words read out very loudly in the classroom. And what I do when that happens is I celebrate that moment because that kid probably has never played with a word in his life and all of a sudden he's doing this. Now I'll talk to him about inappropriate words, but at least they're kind of starting to think about playing with words. The other thing is what will also happen is you'll introduce all this technology to your students and some students will actually go backwards or they'll actually purposely sabotage the whole process. Particularly older students. Yeah. When you're working with a challenging behaviour, a behaviour program, and when you introduce a management program, what happens to the behaviour generally? It normally goes up before it goes down because students have used that behaviour because they've got what they needed from life. And you, Miss Smarty Pants, are not going to come along with your new behaviour program and just change me overnight. I'm going to push back. What happens with literacy support is that our kids who struggle, they have what I think that Graham Innes calls they get exposed to the soft bigotry of low expectation, where you're very our special Mary's one. You're not special, but you're very special. You only do half what you have to do. We'll give you a little dumbed down version, or maybe on a Tuesday you can go and do some gardening or do. So we actually have a lower expectation, and our kids also have a lower expectation. Some of our kids get away with doing nothing or very little, but what happens now? I've got all these tools and I say to my kids, I have high expectation of everybody in my room. We are going to do this. Failure is not an option. And some kids go, whoa, hang on. I've been getting away with doing nothing for a while. So they're going to fight me because this is a new thing. Particularly kids who actually are struggling has become such a thing that they actually feel more comfortable when they are struggling, when things are actually going okay. So I need to expect that sometimes I introduce this technology and I need to expect initially that my results might not be what I thought they were going to be. But celebrate that because you're getting a reaction. It's working. And you need to be relentlessly friendly. You're going to hang in there and you're going to come back tomorrow and you're going to do it again tomorrow and the next day because eventually it will work with these kids. You know, some kids. So this happens. So the voice. So I use all that kind of stuff with Karen. So now I'm going back over here. Now I go back to the website and I realise that I've got students who look at this website. Oh, by the way, that's an image there. Those words aren't available, so I could call up my toolbar and I could get my toolbar. I could press my screenshot reader and it will scan any of that word and read them back to me. So that's cool. But John says to me, "Oh, so which part of that web page do I actually read?" Like there's a whole bunch of stuff, and before you know it, you're off at a Kardashian wedding somewhere, and you don't know how you got there because you went on a link, and you know all that kind of. There's so many. So on the toolbar, and there are lots of these screenshot these tools that you can get that actually simplify a web page. But we've got one on here called Simplify Page. When you press on that, it actually simplifies the web page for you. You don't need off the web page, and just gives you the main text to read. And then it will also give you your toolbar so you can go and do all those things with dictionary support and all that kind of stuff. You can also press this button here. If I could copy that and put it into my Google Doc, but I can also copy that and press SpeechMaker. It's now working. You can't quite see that. What it's doing, it's turning that text into an MP3 file. So I can actually turn any text on my screen into an MP3 file, which I can then read offline. It just becomes a permanent MP3 file, and it's going to put that file onto my hard drive of my machine. So you can think about, I'm sending home this newsletter to my family or this note. I could scan that information, turn it into MP3, and offer some of my families that, or I'll actually give you the MP3 and you can just listen to the note as well. So then you kind of think, oh, I've got all these different alternatives. So that's actually turned that into a, here it is here. If I, whatever, open it up. He wasn't saying that, by the way. His lips weren't moving. It was unbelievable. But the other thing it will do, so I've done, so I can do that. I can also, once I've done that, I can also change the color background, black on white, white on black, blue on yellow, yellow on blue. So I can change the contrast. And I can also press my minus sign and auto summarize the web page down to a few paragraphs as well. So what I can do is I can send this student to the web page as it is. This student here goes to the web page that's been simplified, and that student there goes to the summarized web. I've differentiated really quickly as well. The contents retain the same. What it's done is reduced the amount of vocab that I've needed to get access to that content.
Well, can you give students different paragraphs?
Yeah, I could. What I would do is I would take that, copy that, and put it into a Google Doc, and now I've actually made another version of that web page I'll give some students, because going to that web page was just too difficult. So, and then I could go in and I could then use, even here, I could use my picture dictionary and go in and do, I mean, it's really exciting, the things that you can actually think about and what you can do. And once I make those resources, because it's actually a digital copy in my Google Drive, I've got them then. Unlike my folder of my handouts that are static and I can't change them, I've now got a new folder of handouts, but they're not handouts, they're actually dynamic documents. So, how are we going? Do you need a break? Because do you want to have a 5-minute break? Because I just want to finish with talking about writing, and then just finish up and kind of have questions.
So everybody back 5-2.
5-2.
Is that hang on that? Yeah. Work on that one 10-2. Is that right?
Oh, I can't believe it.
Yeah, have a break, because I could just keep going for hours. You don't want to do that.
I don't know. I think you're making my job a lot easier.
In fact, you don't have a job.
Well, exactly. In fact, I've just become redundant.
It must have been just having.
Why am I sitting there reading my Kindle when I can?
Can't take notes while you're on the trip. Trying to take notes, going, oh, that's all those kids. I want to actually be able to have Liz, I'm in at 1 o'clock next Wednesday at Rosebery. I'm in at Rosebery 1 o'clock next week for 0 on Wednesday. Yeah. So I just can't, I won't be able to go to.
Oh, I can't anyway. I'll tell Larry.
Mine is part of
I can't.
We can't, yeah. That Wednesday after we're at Catherine. We won't be back in time.
Of young children, you make a copy and you just
But I am still
I'm trying to get back to it.
still keen to.
Yeah.
That'll be a good one. So.
Probably before microwaves.
Yeah.
Reduce the reading.
Yeah.
Probably the same as that. We have this.
Oh, well, whatever day. I think you said week 11, he came back with a day, and that date's fine with me. I think he said the
I
afternoon
grew
or
up in
something.
Africa, so
I like a good brew.
Yeah.
coffee.
Yeah. That's all I.
the army they gave us these little
Yeah, I spent a bit of time walking in Arnhem and I'm a bit of I like black tea. That's what I like.
Really?
That's all you need. Black tea.
Oh no, maybe not.
I always read it. I read it this way. Yeah, I just go through
Okay.
mail. Yeah.
a bit of herbal tea. The acquired taste, I think.
We drink in our house green tea at night, late at night. We go to bed.
Oh, yeah. You're like rooibos then. Coffee.
But Tracy, it's just like us, with Frog. The more we've used Frog and showed people that it's not that hard to do. Maybe we start just
doing a couple of these little tools once we played around with them, and just slowly and just get you get your early adopters first who go, this is awesome, and run with it, and then you slowly bring the others on. Because I'm just sitting there, the amount of stuff the last time I went to Catherine, they have been talking about how they're struggling with their kids because of the literacy and numeracy levels. This now breaks down a science class. Yeah.
They're John's and the science and technology teachers and woodwork lecturers, whoever that
So obviously at one level I work
and
for
this
this
is what they
company.
wanted. I said, it's sitting on your server. You've got this already
Yeah.
in your school.
Well, there you go.
Well, you knew it was there.
I'll make sure next time I talk to the St John's science ones, I'll have
I don't think the ICT people have been the most helpful.
And also getting
And our friends,
around
our friends have been there for donkey's
sort of
years.
ways.
This sort of this technology.
And that's the thing, maybe we just need enough of us going
Sometimes
around.
the ICT people are hidden it somewhere, and then they're plugging it in their cupboard and nobody knows where it is.
Yeah.
Jumping around in the
Free, hun.
Exactly.
It was needs to be in a particular place. And suddenly, kids can learn whatever the content is. A week of reading.
Yeah.
Probably away.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of the time it is the reading, especially when you get to your science, you're asking kids to break down all these things.
So how important is it?
Exactly.
Getting
That's
ready to
simplified.
comprehension levels. Most people respond orally, and that's text. Reading and writing is not an issue anymore.
and we get them excited about this.
And yet what you find is when people start using it, reading and writing improves.
Otherwise, the kids are off individual.
All right, I'll
Why wouldn't
So
you?
hey,
We need to make those decisions.
Yeah, I reckon we just
I'm
keep
happy to help out if
slowly,
sometimes
we all,
little webinars.
we can see the benefit of it and just slowly start.
Have you thought about using this? Yeah, in all our conversations with teachers, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? We can incorporate this.
Because I mean, if I had known about this for a while, with the conversations I've had with those teachers.
We had, I was
And that's banging on about it, like, oh yeah, that's
Yeah.
already started.
No, keep providing an example.
You're right, to punch above their weight as well.
all the inclusion teachers.
What's that word again?
Coming together.
They can actually, so it's
But then I think the next level, the idea.
Yeah,
ability.
it's not dumbing it down, which I think a number of and sometimes it's your ones who maybe just need those CV students that need that little bit more, and with extra pictures or definitions and all those sorts of things.
Or it's the kids who are learning, you know, to the next level up. They're 8 years old, they're reading at a
So as we're getting ourselves organised to get back,
they're constantly in that hang on.
I've got a few more minutes, but any questions?
And they carry on.
And you
So
can
in
see where
terms
it's
of
pitched at.
getting this toolbar,
Yeah. Okay, so what happens, so the logistics of it, I will give Jane, I guess I'll send it to Jane. I'll give you some links where you go in, if you've got Google Chrome, you download the extension, and I'll give Jane a link where you go in and as a teacher you can go in and you apply for a teacher subscription, and we're very recorded, but I use the word teacher very globally, if you know what I mean. So you just get, and then you subscribe, and you'll get that toolbar. It's a 12-month subscription for that. It's like all subscriptions now. But what we're doing is we're just turning you over every year. So you basically, our founder and chief technical officer, Martin Mackay, he was the other day quoted as saying, as long as I'm alive, teachers will get it forever for free. So I thought that's good enough for me. So, and then what happens in schools, then if schools want to dish it out to their students, then what happens, it's a subscription process. And we're kind of thinking about that through. We've realised that BYOD is really important, and also kids have multiple formats, and also you want to have it at home and different things. So now we actually have a process where it works out to be roughly $3 a student, and they get access to everything. So they get access to the Google version, but if they want
$3 per student.
but it also gets them access to the software. So if they want a Mac version, a Windows version, an iPad version, or an Android version, they get it both at school and at home. So which realises, like in community where they don't have any internet access. So that toolbar I've been showing you is also a toolbar that's actually a downloadable software program that doesn't rely on internet access. So you just use it as offline.
Which some of our schools already have. We've got 3 schools who have this software.
And often don't use it.
Oh, they
Don't
haven't
use
been.
it at all.
Every time I go into a school, I grab a student and say, hey, come and have a look at this when I've figured out.
And sometimes you need like,
St. John's.
and sometimes you need someone
St.
like
John's.
me to kind of give that impetus, but you also need to build capacity because you can't rely upon folks like me to come in. So we need to, and the beauty of what we did in the ACT was we actually, and I got involved in doing some action research pilots where schools actually put it in place, did some action research, saw the results, got really enthused. And then you can use those as White House schools for other teachers. Like it's like throwing the pebble into the pond, and those ripples are really important. You can't create a tidal wave straight away, but those ripples eventually over time start to impact upon change. And so
and it's really important that you do the follow up. You can't just throw the software in and expect people to pick it up and run with it.
No, because I remember at the beginning I talked about it's about change and people are afraid and teachers go, I'm busy, I can't do this. Kids go, so we need to appreciate all these things and we need to kind of manage that process, you know. So it's just a process. So that's
and not to be pushing. We're running professional development at one of the communities Tuesday, and I was thinking this ties in so nicely. In terms
well,
of
I could.
Not that we'll show them everything, but it's just
I talked to Jane.
Yeah.
But this could be turned on for you by Monday.
Yeah, great. Then I get time to play with it before I show them.
Yeah. But the other thing is also realise that you get time to play with it, but don't be afraid to play with it and it doesn't work. The guy Kevin, who I showed at the beginning, was together. He has an expression that says, "Perfect is the enemy of done." If we wait to be perfect, wait to be Jedis, we'll never get it done. Just jump in, and in fact, jump in and say, "I've just got this." And actually,
well, that's all I thought. I just thought there'll be time, a couple of minutes to say, "Hey, here's something new."
But seriously, some of those tools are quite.
I was an absolute Luddite when I started playing with it. And I just made myself. I played and made mistakes and played until I got the hang of it.
And the other thing is, so we're talking about tools, obviously talking about this tool, but if you just look below the surface of that, we're also talking about teaching and learning in that pedagogy word. And really what we're saying is apply the same principles to however you use technology. Think about, our kids are at the center of everything we do, and how we use technology, we need to think about around that, about how we use it. It impacts upon us. It impacts upon our school. There will be changes in your school because all of a sudden you're going to say to Mr. Jones in history, can I get your handout from you a week in advance because I want to scan it in because when Mary comes to your class, I don't want Mary to leave the room. I want Mary to stay in the classroom, open up the device, put in the headphones, and she's going to be like everyone else in the class. But Mr. Jones goes, you want what? He's a 3 steps to teaching kind of guy. He doesn't think about what he's going to teach until he's 3 steps from the classroom and he works out what he's going to do. So now all of a sudden he's got to be organised. He's got to have, and so those ripples happen in the classroom. And also as a system, because even things like I mentioned to you, have you thought about how you deliver your content globally across the system? At what level? I mean, how complex is it for your website? When a parent comes to the Northern Territory, to the Darwin Diocese website that you get, have you thought about the fact that some people come there and actually can't read your website? And how might we think about how we do that? So all that kind of, because your websites now for lots of us are our gate, are our shop fronts, are our first port of call for people, and we're turning people away, and we want to embrace them and say, our website reflects our values, and our values are we're inclusive, we respect diversity, and we're here for you. And sometimes websites don't quite do that. They just kind of go, oh. And the other thing is websites are developed by, I'm being recorded, so this is all a bit of a problem, being recorded by IT people who are not educationalists. And we need to get the keys to the car back off IT. IT needs to be driven with an educational engine, not with I need more.
Here.
I know, and I don't mean to belittle IT. IT is really important, and they don't come. So we need a relationship with IT in education. And often we as educators have just gone, oh, that's an IT issue. You guys work it out. No, it's. And the thing about this kind of environment is all I do is turn on that thing for my students with their email address. I don't have to install software on any machine. It's all there. and there's a bit of a power imbalance, the power shift. I'm actually giving the tools to my kids. They're not waiting for me to turn up to give them the tools. They're just running with it. And I need to think about my role and all that. So I think it's a really quite exciting time. I meet teachers who are just about to retire, and they go, "Oh, I can't retire now. This is too much. It's too much fun stuff. Not fun. It's actually because also the other issue is technology won't make your life more easier. This is going to cause you more work. You have to expect that this is going to cause. But it's like Pantene. It won't happen overnight, but it will happen, and eventually things are going to happen. But eventually life will, and it's a realignment of all that stuff. It's embracing it. So, it's 3 o'clock on a Friday. Oh my goodness. So shall we go for about half an hour?
Is that all right with people?
Yeah,
it's good.
You can walk.
It's actually really cool as well when you see.
But you can walk out. So it's okay. You can walk out. I'll just note that you're walking out too, and we'll just tell the camera.
You don't need to be filmed.
You're stuck. So I've actually provided all this. So reading, I've done all this stuff. My kids are now interacting, and they're kind of going, oh, And of course, I'm not actually doing things like just sending them to. I'm not just sending them to elephants. I'm really enthusiastic about elephants, but some of my kids, elephants don't quite cut it. So I need to make sure that I engage and give stuff. We can actually see, because in this Google environment, we can actually see the analytics. We don't see individual kids, but we can see globally things that are happening, and we can see that the text-to-speech tool is the most used tool on that toolbar. And so Martin has said, the guy that we work, has said that tool will always be free. It's got to be free because that's the most important tool. And kids use that all the time. We can also see where they use it. We can see that they use it in all sorts of places. This is globally. We can actually, you can kind of see like National Geographic, all those. But there's another website. This is one of them that I go to. It's called Fan Fiction. Have you ever been to Fan Fiction? So Fan Fiction is a website where people write and kids write fiction around their favourite topics. So if I go into, I go to books, and you choose a book, and these are all the books that people read, and what they do is they go into, I could go to the Bible, but I could go to, if I go to The Hobbit?
Yeah.
So I go to The Hobbit. What happens in The Hobbit, people have gone in, kids and adults who are fans of The Hobbit, they go in and write their own chapters, write their own little story, and they're all kept there. And it's a surprising number of kids who like to go there and read these what other people have written. So you can actually go in. Now I've got to be careful. It's all reviewed. This one. So this is Gabrielle. And you can see the rating, how many characters, words, how many reviews it's had. It's had 46. You can actually kind of see this is quite good. So that's actually a little story that someone's written about in the Hobbit world. And you can also change the font size and how the font looks and all that. You can make, but so that's where they go, and they go to read. So you're actually going to get them the stuff they want to read. By the way, I can do a really cool thing here. I've got a little extension called .epub, DOTEPUB. When I press this little button on my extensions, it will turn any web page into an ebook. It'll convert it into I'm talking about like a Kindle book or a iBook. So I'll press this now. I press this. It's now converting that story, and it's done it. It's made it into a EPUB. EPUB is the generic format of an ebook. I can then go to my drive, and I can upload that to Training Resources, and I can EPUB, and I can just drop and drag that book into my Google Drive, and here it is. That must have been the one. Now I can open it up, and I can go open with Read and Write for Google Chrome, because guess what? Read and Write for Google Chrome also reads ebooks. It opens up, so I quickly made this. So it's also now can be read offline as well. Don't have to be online. It's going to open up. It's turned that web page into a digital book, and it's syncing. There it is. That's the digital book that I've made. That's the story. How cool is that? And it embeds the text to speech, so you can actually, they can now have that book read So
I think it's good. So can kids? Can you do that with kids' work? Like that was a web page, but you could do it with just like their own work.
yeah, as long as it's a web page. So
Okay, so it has to be a web page. It can't be like a document.
no,
No.
but you can in Microsoft you can in Microsoft Word. I think you can save as an EPUB. I think you can. So and when you say there's an EPUB, you can put it into their Google Drive, and automatically it becomes like that. And you
It's the best date ever.
I know. I don't even know what to do with that.
No, and some of you are going, duh, what do you know? And just in time, I'm showing you a whole wag of tools. You're not going to go away and use every tool. What you need to do away is actually when you encounter kids who are struggling, rather than me saying you've got a problem that we need to get funding for, we're now saying there are possibilities for this. I don't know what it is today, but I know there's a possibility, and I'm going to go and find it. Don't feel obliged. We feel obliged, particularly if you're in an advisor role, that you've got to provide a solution immediately. People go, oh, what am I going to do, Jane? This kid's, doing this, and Jane going to go, oh, I know there's a possibility. I'm not going to give you the answer now. We're going to go away, and together we're going to find the solution. And so you just build up the fact that there are things for our kids. Some kids love that fact that they can turn that into an EPUB, take it off. They can then, that EPUB is a file that they can be read offline. It can be read I can upload it onto my iPad and read it in iBooks. So I can, all sorts of possibilities. So I'm actually now writing, and I now realise that I'm reading all this stuff, and I need to start doing some research. So I want to actually write, but I've read stuff. I read this web page, and this is really cool. I'm actually going to save some of this stuff, because I need to put this in my assessment task. Now, what would happen normally is I would just copy that and dump it into my assessment task. And plagiarism occurs simply because I forget where I got it from. So what you can do is I can copy some text on different topic areas, whatever I'm doing. I go collect highlights. I go OK. It now takes whatever highlights that I've collected and dumps them into a new Google Doc, puts them all together, and then gives me the web link where I got it from. But if I was using the Windows version, which you get as a bundle offline, the Windows version will do that online for this. We'll do that. But down here, it will also do a bibliography and will annotate it in the right citation format. And you choose but you need to do things like you need to find that there's a second Google search engine you need to have, and so Google actually has lots of specific search engines. And the next one that you need to show your kids and you, is anybody studying at the moment?
Me.
Okay. You might know about this, Google Scholar. So Google Scholar is a search engine that just searches for peer review and academic literature. So I've been doing some John Hattie. So I've been doing some stuff with John Hattie, and I'm writing some papers, and I want to reference John Hattie. Okay? And so I've written this paper. So I go to Google Scholar and I do a search. And I go, search for John Hattie for me. With what it does, it finds all Hattie's work that's actually in peer-reviewed journals or books and stuff. Over on the left over here, I can say to it, only find articles from a certain, from 2016 on or 2000. So I can do that because it's showing me everything that's current. Down here, it's got a little create alert. If I click that, because I'm already logged in with my Gmail account, when I click create alert, what it will do, it will email me in the future when any Hattie work appears that's new since the date that I searched for it. So it just keeps me updated. Over here, this is the book that I've been using, Visible Learning. So it's come on the top. It's been cited by 4,665 people in various articles and journals. I'm figuring that's probably a pretty good. I think I'm on the money with reading that particular book. But over here, when I press cite, it automatically gets it in whatever citation format that I want, and I just copy and paste. That's cheating. Yeah. And then
that's the purpose of technology, to get rid of bibliography.
And then down here, I'm using EndNote, showing you my EndNote. I press that, it automatically put that into an EndNote format, and I can actually automatically put it into my EndNote. EndNote's a format that you get when you do. Yeah. So,
and if the link on the side is attached to your university, you can download it for free.
Yeah. So Google Scholar is cool. You know, if I go back over to here to elephants and doing this research, so I highlight that. I can do the same thing, click highlights with my toolbar, but I'm using Google Docs, and Google Docs is like, it's awesome. There's a thing, if I go into Google Docs and go to Tools, Google Docs, go to Tools and go to Research, because I've got elephant highlighted, it automatically brings up a whole research book tar over here. It gives me photographs of elephants. It gives me data of websites. It just does a total. I could say to it, just only find, I can actually get it to only find photos, images, Google Scholar, quotes, dictionary, tables of data, whatever. So it does that research for me. Then I'm looking over here and I'm scrolling down, here's some websites. I can preview that website. That's the website that I was using to write, that's the website I use. So what I can do is I click preview again, I put my cursor next to the word elephant, I come over here and I press Cite. It automatically puts the number 1 next to that word. And when I scroll down to the first page, it's automatically put a citation.
That's cool. That's different.
Yeah. So there's all these. And so what happens with the students that we work with is that they do assessment tasks and they spend their whole time doing the cover page and the bibliography. And what goes in the middle, they don't really care because that's the important bits. And we stress about that. If you're at university, you know, you can lose marks for putting the dot in the wrong.
You do.
What's the point? What's the point? It's important to actually tell kids why we cite and what citation means and why we have it in italics and what that. But once they know the process, I'm interested in what they know about elephants, not how well they can actually put it as a bibliography. I mean, this even here, if I go back to here and do things like scroll back up here, I've got a whole bunch of photos. And I can say to it, just find photos for me. It'll just give me a whole bunch of images of elephants. I like that one. I can bring it over here, dump it in there. It puts that in as well. It also cites the image at the bottom of the page. I've already automatically given me a citation where I got that picture from. So I'm following all those citation rules and all the copyright rules and that kind of stuff as well. Cool.
Mm-hmm. Very.
So I'm doing all that stuff. I'm doing research. I'm using that reading EPUB, and now I get to write something. So I come down here. And so I get to write something, and the first thing I do is I write, and I use text-to-speech to proofread my writing. And that's its little practice, you know. You can do you'll get some. You can get your kids to do you get a scaffold for them before you hand in your assessment task. Proofread it with text to speech. Make them do it, and you'll see a dramatic increase in the quality of the assessment task just by them listening to their assessment first and actually thinking about reviewing before they hand in. Lots of kids write and then they just press send. They don't review yet. They do all that kind of stuff. But when they actually are writing, they could also do things like they could use speech input. And I'll just work out loud. I bring it up, I stop it, drop down menu here. I can determine what is the accent I want to do that's going to come in. So there's Afrikaans, but there's also, if I scroll down here, there's Australian English, Canadian, Indian, Irish, South African. There's also various Spanish dialects. There's French, there's languages, Arabic, Chinese, Korean, Japanese. If I speak in any of those dialects, particularly those languages, if I speak in those languages, when I speak, it will actually transfer my speech into that language. Or if I'm speaking in English, I make sure I choose the right dialect. It's a bit tricky when we're talking in community because a community accent is but you need to play around with it. But what you can do, you just choose the student chooses the accent and put my cursor there. Now, what I would normally do is I would normally have a microphone plugged into my device. that's noise cancelling. So I'm apparently going to use this microphone up here. But if I just click on here, elephants are very large, full stop, new paragraph. How cool is this? I'm using speech recognition, full stop. Not bad, considering that I didn't train it.
No.
I don't know, I'm just talking to this microphone over here.
That's really improved.
It's really improved. Speech recognition is what they call one of the technologies that is actually on the plateau of productivity. What happens when you introduce technology into any like technology introduction? When any new technology comes, they call it a trigger. Technology appears, like Fitbits. You know those Fitbits? Everyone goes, Fitbits! And so it's called the peak of high expectations. We're all going to get a Fitbit. We all get a Fitbit. And after a few weeks, you go, what do I actually do with this? And so the peak of expectation is always followed by the trough of disillusionment. When this is actually a true format. When you think about the technology doesn't work, and often technology gets lost then. And then after a while, if it's a working thing, it actually gets in this plateau of productivity. A bit like a marriage, peak of expectation, trough of disillusionment. and speech recognition is actually now, is at a stage where it's just omnipresent. So I'm the total, I'm not a geek, but you know, I'm walking around with my wife and we're in Darwin and she says, what's the weather like in Darwin today? And of course I just respond JGI, which means you can just Google it. Oh, can you do it? Okay, so I open up my phone, I've got Google loaded, and I say, turn up the volume. Okay, Google, what's the weather like in Darwin?
It's 32 degrees and mostly sunny in Darwin.
I mean, it is now the level where I can just do that. And for my students, some of them, they don't need to input the question. They can just say, you know, okay, Google, tell me more about elephants. And it's not going to talk back to me in this case. It's just going to give me a whole bunch of web links and so on. So speech recognition is at that level. The problem with this is not the problem, is the issue with speech recognition. There's a few prerequisites. The student has to be old enough. We're not really looking at anyone below grade 4. Anybody below grade 4, you're learning to write. That's what you should be doing, not using your voice. So often you get people saying, oh, I've got a kid in grade 2, they can't write, we might use speech recognition. No, they're learning to write. You might use it for students with physical access issues because they just need to be able, they can't use a keyboard. But above grade 4 is okay, but you need to think also about why they want to use it. And what I did there, I actually had to think about the sentence I was going to type in advance in my head. Then I had to dictate it to the device consistently. And then as it came up, I had to be able to read what came up and actually make any corrections if it actually was making a mistake. That's quite a cognitively loaded process for lots of kids. So speech recognition requires literacy skills. And if I'm a struggling writer, it mightn't necessarily be the tool that I think it is, but I can use it for things like typing, spelling, you know. And this spelling is difficult for me. So rather than spell it, I'll just go elephant and just say the word as a spelling tool. Or I might just use it to get my thoughts down quickly. It just depends on students. For some kids though, they actually might prefer this. My answer. This is going to be their answer. They highlight it. They press the voice note button. What it's going to do, it's going to embed an audio file of your voice. And they click play. Hey, Mr. O'Connor. Great class today. Thanks a lot. My answer is elephants. They're very big. And then they go insert. It's now going to insert that as an audio file into the Google Doc. You don't actually need to have anything else. It's going to just be an audio file. It'll take a minute because the internet access, there it is. And so when they provide this doc to me to mark, I don't actually get to see the written answer. I get to listen to them. And so now you can use it in the opposite way. You could use it as an instructional tool. So I could be using that as a doc I want to give to my students. but I might be in community and want to embed some language. So I can get someone who can put some language into that, so get additional support. Or I could be working with kids who are gifted and talented, and I want to extend them, and I can actually give them some audio notes that kind of say, maybe for lots of different reasons, how I could use that tool.
Well, which was the tool for that one? Sorry.
It's called the voice note tool.
Voice note.
Yeah, and then finally I could do for typing, and there's a whole lot of tools. I mean, I could come back here. There's an extension called Word Cloud Generator, and I'll just click on that. I'm on this web page here. Where is it? Here it is. Click on that, and it automatically generates a word cloud for me. I could do that kind of stuff, making vocab. There's lots of tools, and on your Google Doc I'll give you all these other tools, but we're running out of time. But essentially I could go back here and also use, get rid of that, and also use word prediction as well built into the tool. So as I start to type, it starts to predict what I want to type. And I can listen to the words. And as I'm inventive speller, it's helping with my spelling. It's kind of predicting that I'm maybe trying to spell elephant. And I can just hover over that. That's the one. I choose that. It leaves a space. And then it starts to predict, and it's saying they might not be the words I'm using, but it's saying that's kind of the word I should be using, one of those kind of words. So it's helping with my grammar as well. For some kids, it actually helps them with their keystrokes. Some kids with autism spectrum disorder find typing really difficult. So this might have been might have taken 25 keystrokes to type that sentence. Now it might only be 5 keystrokes because I just need to get bang, 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 bang. Or someone with physical access issues, whatever the reason. Voice. That's another tool that I can embed in that as well.
I found that kids really like that tool. That was another tool to use.
It's like the phones, isn't it?
The word prediction. Word prediction.
Word prediction. So there's things like word prediction, voice note, speech maker. There's a whole bunch, and there's a whole bunch of other tools that you can get just in the Google Chrome environment, just extensions. And I could baffle you with 1,000 extensions, but we're running out of time. But just going through it, I was thinking, okay, in the pre-writing and drafting, revising, editing, and publishing, just thinking about all the different Google tools I could use to support that, and just putting those in place as an example. You'll get a copy of that coming up. You know that Fluency Tutor thing program I showed you? We're now developing one for writing. It gets released next week, and it's free. The reason it's free is there's actually lots of tables around what we know about fluency, but we don't have any research around what is fluency when it comes to writing. We don't actually have many stats. So we've come upon this idea. We're going to actually give this out for free to 10,000 teachers. When you get it, you actually have it forever. But in the first year, because there's so little research, we're going to generate data about what teachers mark. They're going to mark writing a bit like I did that in the reading process. And based on that data, we think we're going to generate 10 million bits of data around what kids are writing and how people are scoring it. And then we're going to generate some norms. We're going to link with the university in America to actually do that. So we're actually using the analytics in Google to actually do the research. So I'll send it to Jane. I don't want to kind of go on about it, but it's really just a new tool that we're going to be able to look at things like time spent writing, spelling rate, vocabulary diversity, writing maturity. There's no data around, there's no research really around how you can grade a writing piece on a grade level. So we're going to kind of start to generate data, and just we figure we can use the same tool to generate data as well. So we're going to be doing that. Now,
when NAPLAN goes online and the robots correct that, that's not from any data, or?
Well, it will. That should generate a whole bunch of data. The difference with NAPLAN and this is that what we'll be doing is actually teachers in real time doing real teaching.
Yeah, and that's the information that's missing. And
NAPLAN is about sitting in an assessment task that often students have been taught to sit, and that's different data sets, we think. And you're going to be able to compare your kids across class and all this. So we're going to use all this. That's all coming up. But anyway, so there's a whole. I'm just going to kind of go through it. It impacts upon. I'll give you a whole lot of stats on all the different stats and the importance of Google Analytics And the importance of planning for all this stuff. Whatever you do when you're actually using technology for diversity, as Jane said, it just can't be a haphazard process. You need to have a plan. I love this. We need a plan. We've got nothing. And that often happens, you know. What is the plan? We're just going to do it. And so action research is a really important tool. And this is what we did in the ACT. And in the slides, I'm just going to give you a whole bunch. I won't do it now, but you can go through and I'll just give you examples of, you know, before and after work samples, or examples of that kid with that, or just some just talking to kids and talking about what they experience. And that data it feeds back into my teaching cycle in my classroom, but also informs whatever system I'm using in my as well. So as we go through all this stuff, and it's almost 3:30, I get back to my mate Kevin. We're back taking a selfie back there. And as I'm leaving, I get my bangle, but also I'm leaving, and I come across this little video happening in the corner. And it's a video of President Kennedy on May 25th, 1961, telling America that America's gone to the moon. It's pretty cool. And when I read it, this little thing was underneath the video. When I looked at what it said that when President Kennedy said that on May 25th, 1961, NASA had sent 80 satellites into space and 49 had blown up. They had a 39% success rate and they still went to the moon. I thought, how cool was that? He didn't say, we can't go until we're actually perfect. He said, we've got to do this. We've just got to go to the moon. And I thought that's exactly what we should do. We should not wait to be perfect. In fact, we need to be like not my friend, but like Audrey. Have you seen Audrey? Audrey's a little boy who wants to make a Rube Goldberg machine. A Rube Goldberg machine is like mousetrap. Mm-hmm. And I want you to leave today and actually be a bit like Audrey. It's a bit like using technology, all those steps involved. Yep, good. So I want you to be like Audrey. And the technology is too important. Don't wait to be perfect. Use these tools because failure should not be an option for any of our kids when it comes to reading and writing, and we shouldn't define who they are. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I think that was absolutely inspirational. So I hope we take that message forward. I appreciate it a lot. Thank you.
Thank you.
And
Thank
that
you
would
so
be
much.
end of the day for all of you.
Yeah, have a happy weekend.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh well, I'm not giving them off. That's for you.
I'm happy to hang around a bit longer if anyone has any
meeting,
questions
so.
or any other stuff, but it is Friday and you do need to.
So Greg, you're going to be around for a bit so they can ask individual questions?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not rushing anywhere. I'm only rushing back to a motel room, so I'm more than happy to.
Thank you
very much.
Thank you.
That
was fun.
concludes the meeting. If I look at the agenda, if I can find it.
Thank you.
Yes, that's it. Thank you.